are reported to have been killed since 1986, and some 4,200 are reported to have received threats. More than 400 of the killings have happened during the administration of current President Álvaro Uribe. After hitting a peak in the 1990s, the rate of killings dropped for several years, but it has recently risen again, to 49 killings in 2008 from 39 in 2007. Also, union members reported receiving 485 threats last year, almost twice the number recorded the previous year. The overwhelming majority of these cases have never been solved. Colombia's Attorney General reports that in the last 8 years, there have been 171 convictions for anti-union violence. This number reflects a big jump in convictions starting a couple of years ago, when the Attorney General's office established a specialized group of prosecutors to reopen many of the uninvestigated cases. But despite this increase, 96% of all the unionist killings remain unsolved. And even at the current rate of convictions, with no new killings, it would take 37 years for the prosecutors to get through the backlog. Also, as we explained in a November letter to Speaker Pelosi, which I would like to submit for the record, there are serious reasons to be concerned about the sustainability of the increase in convictions. For one, the specialized prosecutors are only investigating 1,104 of the total cases of 2,694 killings, 4,200 threats, and other acts of violence. And they do not have a clear plan to review the remaining cases. Second, many of the convictions involve paramilitaries who are participating in what's known as the justice and peace process, in which in exchange for their supposed demobilization, they'll serve only very short sentences of 5 to 8 years for all of their crimes. These convictions do little to clarify the truth, as in many cases the convicted paramilitaries simply accept responsibility for the crimes without explaining the circumstances surrounding them, who ordered them, or why. And once the process is over, it's likely the conviction rate will drop again. Finally, in some of the most high-profile cases, like the investigation of Uribe's former intelligence chief, Jorge Noguera, for alleged involvement in union killings, there's been little progress. While some of the violence is attributable to the military, to left-wing guerrillas, or to common crime, by far the largest share of the killings where perpetrators have been identified are attributable to paramilitary mafias, who have deliberately persecuted unionists. So to address anti-union violence effectively, it's crucial that the government dismantle the paramilitary groups that are most responsible for it. But the government has failed to do so. The Uribe administration claims that the paramilitaries have demobilized, but scores of new groups closely linked to the paramilitaries are operating all over the country, engaging in extortion, killings, forced disappearances, forced displacement, and drug trafficking, just like their predecessors. I've personally interviewed many of their victims. The bulk of the threats received by unionists last year have been signed by these groups. The paramilitaries have also infiltrated some of the highest circles of political power, including much of the Colombian Congress. 74 members of the Congress, nearly all of whom are members of President Uribe's coalition, are under investigation or have been convicted for collaborating with paramilitaries. Unfortunately, as I documented in our latest report, which I'd also like to submit for the record, the Uribe administration has often taken steps that would undermine these investigations. President Uribe has launched personal public attacks against the Supreme Court justices who have led the investigations, and he's blocked meaningful efforts to reform the Congress to eliminate paramilitary influence. Another problem the government must address is the large number of extrajudicial killings of civilians by the Colombian army. The Attorney General's office is currently investigating cases involving more than 1,000 victims of such killings in recent years. 22 of the union killings in the last few years are believed to have been executions by the military. It's difficult to take the government's commitment to contain anti-union violence seriously when its security forces appear to be engaged in widespread executions of civilians. It's also difficult when senior government officials, including President Uribe himself, continuously make statements stigmatizing union activity and human rights work as linked to guerrillas, like he did just last weekend. In sum, the Colombian government has a long way to go to make sure that workers in Colombia can exercise their rights. But the Colombian government senses that change has come to Washington and that more progress is expected. The United States should seize this opportunity by standing firm on the need for fundamental changes in Colombia and providing support to achieve those changes. Thank you very much.